Hello, everybody. Welcome to Real Guitar Live number 52. 52 Real Guitar. That's 52 months. Oh, boy. Today, I have a special treat for you. Along with myself, I have a guest, John Gilliatt, who is an expert guitar player and a guitar teacher extraordinaire as well. John and I go way back. Hey, John.
Yeah, we do, for sure.
We performed together, we practiced together, and we've known each other for years. Matter of fact,
Yeah.
I got something, John. This will bring back some memories for you.
Uh-oh.
Where is this? Yeah. Share screen. Check this out. Remember this?
I'm worried now. Oh, yeah, for sure. Awesome.
That's the promotion for one of the concerts we did many years ago. You can tell we've gotten a little bit older. Huh?
Yeah, we looked pretty good back then. Yeah, we still look good.
Still look good. Let's see now. How can I stop sharing? That was the right thing to do. So, for those of you who this is your first time for Real Guitar Live, I'll give you just a quick summary of what we're going to do so you know what you're in for. Of course, we're going to answer all your guitar questions. First, I'm going to answer the questions that were pre-submitted. And you can always submit questions ahead of time. If you didn't know that, you're welcome to as well for the next Real Guitar Live. I'll answer those first. And then I'll go ahead and take questions that you're submitting live in the chat. And of course, John and I will both answer the questions. And sometimes we'll have a something unique to add, so you get a little more bang for your buck with the two of us here. If you could, I'd ask you to put the word question in front of your question because there's comments too. When I look over there, I don't have time to carefully read everything to determine if it's a question or not. So if I see question, I'll know that's a question I need to answer. I appreciate it. And when we're done, answered hopefully all your questions, I'm going to do a drawing. We do a drawing once a month for members of my Real Guitar Success membership. These are students who have completed the 20 practice sessions. They get a practice session every weekday. Just means they spend 10 minutes on it, more if they want, but at least 10 minutes. And when they're done, they check them all off and get entered into a drawing to win a $50 Amazon gift card. So that'll be fun.
Nice.
Now, if you're watching this pre-recorded, if you're watching this afterwards and it's recorded, feel free, welcome, and feel free to ask your questions in the comments below on YouTube. I do read the comments there every few days, and I will answer your question to the best of my ability, of course. Not quite as good as what I can do live with my guitar and all, but I'll certainly give it my best shot. With that said, welcome, Shulamit. I see a few. Tim, good to see you here. James and Stefan. Michael, feel free to... Oh, good. I see already people are asking questions. Good job, Michael. Thanks. I'm going to start with the pre-submitted question. Oh, no. First, I'm going to give a quick presentation based on the first submitted question. And I'll explain that. The question is, well, my fingers are killing me. I have been playing for 2 years. I thought my fingertips should be over this hurting phase. Shouldn't they? And that's a nice thought, huh?
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot of reasons the fingers are hurting, and I have done videos on, solutions, getting lighter strings, adjusting your action on your guitar. That's how high or low the strings are off the frets. Possibly even putting softer strings. We have something called silk and steel, which some people love. A lot of people don't like the sound, but some people just love it. But they're much softer, more somewhere in between nylon and steel strings. And, just organizing your practicing so you're doing a little at a time very often so your fingers get tough until your fingers get tough faster. But it's not always enough. And because one thing that's going on is many people have a bad habit that they've developed when they first start playing guitar, and that's the habit of over-pressing on the guitar strings when they make chords. Now, it's not wrong, and it's very common because when you first are learning guitar, it's hard to press down the strings accurately, get your fingers in the right place to start with, and then adjust them so they're just, close enough to the fret, but not on top of the fret. Then you have to deal with the right angle, the right hand position, the wrist. All those things, they take time to develop and get them just right. And often we compensate, and I'm included in this, I did the same thing. I compensated by pressing harder to get a decent sound with the chords. And it works. A lot of times that's just you need to make the chord sound clear, considering you're not doing the perfect technique. But it becomes a habit. And ideally, what would happen is as you progress over time, you would just, get better technique, closer to the fret without having to think about it, and you'd lighten the pressure little by little. But that's not really what happens. Usually once it becomes a habit, it's not that easy to just get rid of. So you end up getting better at making chords, but you're still overpressing. And keep in mind, this is not just about your hand hurting. Or your fingertips hurting. In this case, that's what he's referred to as fingertips are hurting. Because there's a lot more involved here. For one thing, it's more strenuous to overpress, and it makes you tired faster. You can't play or practice for as long. It also starts wearing on your guitars. Your strings will wear out faster. But even over time, it can actually gouge into your fretboard, this part of your guitar, little by little, just like the ocean wearing away a stone. More serious is some hand difficulties that I've had several friends that have had carpal tunnel or tendonitis, and it put them out of business for a while. They went to go to doctor and then do a variety of exercises and lighten their strings. Fortunately, they both got back up and running on their guitar, but this can be very painful. Have you ever experienced anything like that, John?
Oh man, for sure. I know I play a lot of nylon string, but I also play steel string, and I do play electric as well. I remember, having to play. Actually, I switched my strings. I always use a normal tension string on my nylon string guitar. But I thought if I went to a harder tension, because a lot of the flamenco players were doing it, my guitar would probably sound better and project better and all that kind of stuff. So I switched.
The same thing.
Yeah, so I switched to a harder tension string, and it's very similar to steel string using a lighter gauge or a heavier gauge. Sometimes we use heavier gauges because the tone's better. But the problem with using a string that's more taut or projects better is it's a little harder to push down. And I use a very light touch because I've been playing for a long time, and you just learn to develop a light touch because you have to, or it slows you down. You're not as efficient a player. So when I was playing my 2-3 hour gigs with a hard tension string, my fingers would just be aching, and it had nothing to do with with my technique never changed. It's just the tension made a huge difference. So yeah, like you were saying, string tension makes a big difference. I know I've had students that come in with guitars that the action is just awful, and I couldn't even play it, because I know. So really make sure you take your guitar into a store and have someone, a professional or somebody that plays a lot, to say whether this guitar is even playable, because we get a guitar that's handed down from our uncle or something, and we think, great, we're going to play, and I'm going to learn to play on this guitar because it looks beautiful, and it may be exactly what is giving you a hard time learning how to play and causing your fingers to ache. Another thing I hope you don't mind me mentioning is when I teach my students, I tell them when you're creating a note on the guitar, all you have to do is shorten the distance from the string, where you're putting the note, to the bridge. By shortening that distance, you're creating a note. So you don't have to use much pressure at all. All you're literally doing is you're just pinching the string lightly behind the fret in order to create a nice clean note, which means you don't have to push that string down to touch the wood of the guitar. All you have to do is pinch behind the fret, especially guys trying to play bar chords and stuff. It's just a light pinch right behind the fret. Sometimes my fingers are almost like right on top of the fret, leaning a little bit to the headstock side. I would probably say most of the time my fingers are almost right up against the fret, especially with chords or bar chords. My bars, they're right on top of the fret. I'm just leaning back away from the fret, but all I'm doing is pinching the string to shorten the length to create the note. So if you kind of have that mental image of just pinch the string behind the fret lightly to shorten the length, you're going to get a nice clean note. So those are a couple of things that have definitely worked for me.
Those are great tips, and you've said it in a very elegant way. I want to add to that, the habit of pressing too hard can be replaced with a new habit. And this is in addition to those tips. This is not in place of them. Matter of fact, I'd say this is sort of the second rung. it is good in the beginning if you can pay attention to this. Sometimes you can prevent yourself from getting too entrenched in the habit of pressing too hard. But here's what I do with students. I have them play just first of all, try to determine how hard you have to press. So I'll start with just one single string. I'll start with my first string. Oh, matter of fact, I'll even show my guitar so everybody can see what I'm doing. Play the first string, and then I'll have the students press a note, try to get the note clean, and then keep lightening up until the note starts fuzzing out. There, I'm getting it. So now I'm going to go the other way and start pressing slightly and see how much it takes. Now I got a nice note, and I can already tell I'm pressing about half as hard as I started off, and I still got a clean note. So this is just a good way to kind of get a sense of how hard you actually have to press to get a note. And, I am paying attention to staying close to the fret, not on top of it, because I'm going to get more leverage that way. Now, once the student does that on the first string, I'll have you go on to another string. So each string feels a little different. So I'm finding that, there we are, deadening out. Now I'm pressing. Okay, again, I'm pressing out almost half as light as I started off. I'll try, I'll have students try on the wound string because they really feel different. So there we go. I got a clean note. I have to press a little harder on that. There, deaden out. There we go, buzzing a little more. So that's to get the feel. And you should spend a little time on that and just get the feel for really how hard you have to press on each of these strings to make a clean note. And it sometimes helps to go a few different notes as well on each string. That done, here's an exercise that I like students to practice that serves several things, but one of the things is it's simple enough to really pay attention to how far you have to press. The exercise goes like this. We'll start with the sixth string. So it's a typical warm-up exercise. I call it finger developer, except for now we're going to go slow enough and pay attention enough to make them each buzz or mute. There, now we got it. I'm buzzing. Yeah. But I want to hear the note too. So it's that place you're pressing just hard enough to hear the note, but it's still buzzing. Now go through it again and a little harder. Just a little harder. Try and get to where I can do all the notes with the least amount of tension, but still get them to sound clear. There. I'm there. Now on to the fifth string. Same thing. I want to buzz. If it doesn't buzz, I press too hard to start. There we go. And again, now I'm going to press a little bit harder. Again, I'm trying to take that feeling that I got from playing around with the notes and apply it to playing notes one after the other, which is more like playing guitar. You do that until you get all the way to the first string, and I call that stage one. Now, we don't automatically go from stage one to stage two. Usually I'll have students do that for a number of days, maybe even a full week, and then come back and do stage two, which looks like this. Now we do all the strings back to back without stopping. And I'm going for buzz the first time around. And keep going. Open, first fret, second fret, and third fret, all the way to the first string. Now I'll go back and press just a little bit harder, same thing. Try and get a clean note with the least amount of pressure. I say it serves a couple of purposes because you're going so slow, it trains you to really focus and pay attention with your ears to what the note's sounding like. Whether you're buzzing or not, you're really focusing in. I don't know if you know this, but after a while, if you're like me, you're practicing your exercises without really paying much attention. You're just going through them. But this forces you to really pay attention to what the note sounds like, what it feels like. If the finger's in the right place, you're going slow enough and paying enough attention, you can get the finger close to the fret. You can check your hand position. Are you relaxed? If you're tensing up, you can lighten up and come back at it. So it gives you an opportunity to do things that normally you probably wouldn't spend a lot of time or attention doing. And by going through this, I use it as a warm-up. That's how I like to do it. Maybe once in a while I'll say, gee, I'm starting to press too hard. So for a full week, I'll do this as a warm-up and really start focusing in on how hard I need to press. And that backs me up to start releasing the muscles. And I find my playing after that week much easier and less strenuous, as well as, my technique's improved a little bit because I've really put my attention there. So I encourage you to practice this exercise. If you haven't, try it for a week or two if it's the first time you've done it. And you're not going to get the benefit of just doing it one time, or at least not as much. Give it at least a few days, and you'll find that this technique or this way of thinking just starts filtering into all of your guitar playing. Anything you'd like to say, John, before I go on to the next question? Anybody
That
else
sounds
have questions?
great. I did have one thing that makes a big difference. I find that most of the time, a lot of my students get sore fingers because they might be just trying to play a D chord, and they're pushing down as hard as they can, trying to get the fingers in place. So you're using up all your energy and all your strength just to get those fingers in the right spot. And it's hurting already before you even get to the point where you're actually going to, strum the chord, right? So always when you're learning new chords, and I do it still, when I'm trying to play complex jazz chords and stuff, where I'm just taking my fingers off the chord or off the guitar, back on, but I'm not pressing at all. It's placement. I'm building muscle memory. If I can build that muscle memory so I get all the notes, I'll be sitting there going, okay, this finger's got to go over here, but I'm not pushing down, and I won't push down. It's just off and on, or maybe from one chord to the other. But I don't know if you guys can see this, which you probably can't. My fingers are in place, but I'm not pressing down on the strings, and I'm not going to bother pressing down on the strings because I don't want to burn out my left hand or create a problem with like carpal tendonitis. So by just lightly touching the strings, putting my fingers in the correct spot off and on, I'm actually learning to build the muscle memory that's required in order for me to hit these chords right away, and then just lightly press on the notes very lightly in order to create the chord. Because I don't want you to burn up all your energy and all that sensitivity on trying to just get your fingers in the right place. So do it while you're watching TV. You don't even have to strum. You're just taking your hand on and off, getting that placement. It really helps build muscle memory, and it's going to save your fingers hours and hours of pain. So hopefully that's also a good tip that could help.
Tim says, old guys rock. I'll show you what he's referring to.
Who are you calling an old guy?
Can you see my shirt?
Just kidding. Oh, that's awesome.
That's it says never
get
underestimate an old man with a guitar.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Next question. Here we go. According to TechCrunch, about 90% of guitar students drop out in the first year of learning. Okay, I'm not surprised. Do you have any advice on strategies to help students to persevere and become successful guitar players? Also, what are the pitfalls that new students need to be aware of from the start, and how can they be overcome? I'll let you start with that one, John.
Sure. Well, when you learn guitar, and even when I was learning, I would say your practice sessions, just have them as short but consistent. Most guys will pick up a guitar and they'll go at it, because they just get home from their lesson. They go at it for like a half an hour, and then they put the guitar down and they come back the next week and they just feel like they just haven't gotten any further. But if you consistently do it where you go, okay, I've got to do this every day. I've made a commitment to 10 minutes only. I'm just going to pick up my guitar. I'm going to do the exercises first that I have to do to learn the song or whatever it is that I want to do. And I'm going to do that consistently every day, like exercise or taking your vitamins. And you will see progress a lot faster, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like it, but you will progress a lot faster by doing it that way. And you just feel better because you are doing the work. The other thing too is once you've done 10 minutes, usually what happens is because you're having fun working out whatever you're working out, you usually practice for, half an hour. But because you've committed to only 5-10 minutes, that's it. So it doesn't feel like overwhelming. I'm just going to do 5 minutes. That's it. I have to do it. It's going to make a difference, and chances are you're going to practice every day now for more than what you've allotted. So hopefully that'll help. I couldn't have said that better. As a matter of fact, if I had to pick one thing, that's exactly what I would say.
And I know I suffered from that. I felt if I couldn't practice for like an hour, I'm not even going to get started. But that did me in more times than not. I'm thinking of one other thing. There's probably a lot of things I didn't think of, but I know in the beginning, at least, one of my downfalls was I had a bad guitar, or a guitar that wasn't working right. It had real high action, and I really encourage students. This is something we do in our school. We have guitars for rent as well, so I can say, hey, you're really going to be frustrated with that and more likely to quit because it doesn't actually work right. Even when you play it right, it's not going to sound good. Better to at least rent a guitar that sounds good so you can see what you can do. And I would say for a lot of students, you really should at least check and have somebody, if you have any doubts, go to a store and have them check out your guitar. If nothing else, maybe adjust the action a little bit so it's easier to play. And you want something that when you play it, it at least sounds decent. You don't have to buy the most expensive guitar, but I've seen people, they just try and get away as cheap as possible because they're worried, if I don't like it, I don't want to spend a lot of money. Well, you're kind of making it so you're not going to like it if the guitar doesn't actually produce a good sound.
I agree. And just to add to that, so number one, make sure you're playing the guitar that inspires you to play. If you want to play rock and roll, then get a rock and roll guitar, a Strat or something, not play an acoustic. So get something that inspires you. But not only that, say you're playing acoustic guitar, where you pick your practice space, pick it in a room that makes you sound good. If I play in a room that's full of carpet and lots of pictures on the wall or whatever, the sound gets sucked up and absorbed. It doesn't sound good. But if I can play in a room, like if I walk into an empty stairwell or something like that, and it's really reverberant, I play one note and it just sounds amazing, and I'm inspired to play a few more notes. I'll tell you something that I purchased. I don't know if I should be promoting things, but
okay.
I bought a thing called a tone wood amp. And why I love it is it's on the back of my guitar, this little thing here, because I'm in a room that's full of carpet and full of stuff. So if I play my guitar normally, it would sound like this, right? It sounds very dry, not real exciting. I'm not inspired. But if I activate the amp, I don't know if you can hear that.
Check it out.
My guitar is not plugged into anything except for this, what we call a tone wood amp. It is plugged in, but it just goes into this little thing that it makes it sound like I'm in a huge hall. It's awesome.
I hear it. I can hear it even through the internet.
I'm so inspired to play because I play a single note and it just sounds great. So that's my little tip for being inspired to play. Oh, I've got one other thing too.
Sure.
And I tell a lot of my students this too. If you just don't feel like playing, you're just not inspired, going, I'm too tired, put on a song, play it. Have a song or a playlist of guitar stuff that inspires you. You listen to those guys and go, oh, that's cool. That's why I want to be a guitar player. I heard this and it sounds great. All I have to do is play like one song by a musician that inspires me. I don't even have to listen to the full song, and all of a sudden I'm just itching to pick up my guitar again. So that's a way to get you to play.
The next question, I'll take this one. What makes a dominant seventh chord, and what is the difference between them and the major seventh chords? This is Shulamit. Well, let me see. I'm going to use my guitar to give a brief theory lesson. Let's see. I'll make it big, and I'll go over to the guitar version. So, in short, and I'm going to show this, so don't worry if it doesn't make full sense. Chords are made of, basic chords are made of usually 3 notes. And when you add a 7th note to it, it turns it into a 7th chord. So without going through the whole theory, if you have a major scale and you start on any note and pick every other note and just pick 3 notes, you're going to get a chord. It's either going to be major or minor, depending on where you start. If you have a C major scale and you start on C, skip a note and go E and G, you've got a C major chord. We call that a triad. It's the basics of a chord. The 7th would be you go one more. You skip a note and go one more. So in the case of a C chord, it would be D, the note just before the name of the chord. So a C chord, C, B, B, before the note. B is before C and not D. Now, here's the thing. To make it a seventh, the seventh is actually referring to an interval. If you have a C note and you go up a seventh interval, that is the note that you're going to use to make it a seventh chord. In the case of a dominant seventh chord, you have to flatten the note. It's one half step on the guitar. So if I want a C dominant seventh chord, I'm going to use the seventh note. I'm going to add it to a C triad. This is the basic C chord. By the way, this has those notes I mentioned, C, E, and G, but they're duplicated. That's why there's 6 strings. I've duplicated some of the notes. So you can do that when you're made a chord. If I'm going to make it a C7, I'm going to add the B, but I have to go down a half step, so it's B flat. Here's that B flat. That becomes a C dominant seventh chord. So again, the seventh is referring to the interval from C to B flat. That's another way to say that is a minor seventh interval. Now, major seventh. We just go back up the half step. So instead of B flat, B. I never form it this way, but that would be how it works. See my pinky? I went up the half step. Back down, that's a dominant seventh, and that's a major seventh. Now, if I were making a lesson on this, I'd have a chart and show the scale and each of the notes and then show what makes a dominant seventh. But here's the thing that you should know also. I think it's really helpful to know this, but equally important is to just memorize chord forms. Because see, when I make a dominant seventh like this, and I make a major seventh, I wouldn't actually form it that way. It is a major seventh, but it's an awkward fingering. Let's see, I guess usually when I do a major seventh, I do it like this. Because now I've got the B right here, and so much easier. And I know that fingering, so I wouldn't even have to think about it. I'm not thinking theory when I'm playing chords. But you want both. You want to understand where it's coming from for a variety of reasons, especially if you're composing music or trying to do something that involves a little more creativity than just strumming and playing. But at the same time, you don't want to have to think out every single piece of theory when you're trying to play a chord. Okay, that's my spiel on the dominant seventh. Anything to add to that, John?
Yeah, sure. Why not? For sure. Okay, let's see. Am I on screen? Oh, there I am. Yeah, chords and creating chords. I love this stuff because I like to create shortcuts to everything. Yes, it's extremely important to know the theory and to understand how it works and intervals and all that. But sometimes, when you want to turn the light on, you just want to flip the switch, right? Instead of having to go, okay, well, electricity's got to pass to this thing, and then there's got to be a connection for it to complete a circle, blah, blah, blah. And, we're going, I can't take it anymore. So here's my spiel on major sevens, major chords, major sevens, and dominant sevens. First of all, what is a major seven chord? It's a very pretty, beautiful, home bass chord. Here's my D major seven. Doesn't that sound nice? And it feels like we've gotten there. It's just a beautiful thing, right? If I want to make it bluesy sounding, I use a dominant seventh chord. It's unstable. It wants to take you someplace. And we use it in the blues all the time, right? Here's like, that's so pretty. That's beautiful. I'm here on my major seventh chord. All of a sudden, whoa, wants to take me someplace. And we use it in the blues because it's cool. So, okay, identifying the sound of the chord is great because now you can listen to it and go, oh, he's playing a major seventh chord or he's playing a dominant seventh chord. But how do we create these things in a real hurry? Well, I'll show you how I do it. I just think of it like this. Okay, I'm going to play a D chord. It's important to know where your notes are all over the guitar. So there's lots of cool tricks and things you can do to find notes in a real hurry and be a master of finding a note without having to read it. So I know I have my open D string, this string here. I also have a D note, which is right here. If I take the root of the chord, which is the letter name, the D, I move it one fret back, major seven chord. Okay, D chord, Major 7, I move that note back. Dominant 7, move that note back one more. That's all there is to it. Now you can play major 7 chords and dominant 7th chords instantly just by moving your root note. Okay, that was D major 7, D dominant 7. Here's, let's go with A. Oops, let's see if you make sure you see my guitar. A chord. Here's the A note. I know I have this open A string, but I can take this A note, major 7 chord, move it one more, dominant 7. Let's put it together with the chord. Major 7, it moved. Dominant 7, bluesy. Let's take E. E major. E, move the E note down 1 fret. E major 7. Might not be the most practical way of playing it. I don't even know if you can see this. Sounds very nice and pretty. I use it in a Gypsy King song called goes that pretty chord. Dominant 7. Then I'll go someplace else. So that's my trick. Try it out. G major 7. I'm taking this G note, moving it to here. G dominant 7. Or some people play it this way. But you get the idea. I'm just taking the one note, the G note, super easy to find. I can even play G major 7. Not always good to have the 7 in the bass.
No,
but sometimes we do it as
bass.
jazz players. And this is a G7 chord. Can you play, or G major 7 chord? G7. Okay, doesn't sound great down there in the bass, but you get the idea. Super easy. Now you can play major chords, major 7 chords, dominant 7th chords, and you could do that for your minor chords too. But that's another lesson.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, no problem.
Here's one from Bob. Please show us some tips for muting strings and chords. If I'm doing warm-ups, scales, I end up with more than one note going, and it's not too pretty. So I get it. He's referring, when he says muting, he means when he's playing a scale, let's say, of stopping the note that he just played, or not letting other notes ring as he goes on to other notes. My tip there would be, first of all, that's a good question. I would say slow down on playing the scales and angle your finger in such a way so that if a note is ringing that you don't want to ring, angle it slightly down so it touches it. I do that. The reason I'm having a hard time is because I do that automatically without even thinking about it. It's become a habit. See, I've muted that next note. Now, a lot of times, like with this C scale, I don't have to because I take my finger off of this C note. It's not going to ring. And now when I go on to this is E to F, same thing. I'm not having the next note ring. But what I am doing, I should show my guitar. What I am doing here, this would be sort of tip number 2, is as I press down the note, my pick is going down and touching the next string. It's probably hard to see this small. It's small for me anyway. I'm hitting the 4th string, and my pick is going down and touching the 3rd string. Now, I do that by habit without thinking about it because I don't want that 3rd string to ring. I don't want it to ring while I'm hit the 4th note. Otherwise, if I go out like this, it's going to ring in sympathy, or I might accidentally touch it, which is very easy to do. So my pick is going down and hitting the string. Now, these two things, they have to become habits to be useful because you don't want to have to think, I've got to hit that note and touch that next string. So one of the ways to do that is to practice your scales very slow and just put your attention there. That's a very powerful thing, where you put your attention. Put your attention there for short periods of time, not to make it totally no fun to play scales anymore because you're trying to get every little thing right. But keep in mind, your left hand can angle down and touch another string to stop it from ringing, and your right hand pick can touch another string when you strike a note so that it doesn't ring. That's my tip. I'm sure there are others.
Cool.
You think of anything, John, to add to that?
Oh, yeah, I can always add stuff. my right hand, I have to pick very economically. So if I'm picking a single note, I want to make sure I'm just going to go through the string, a very short stroke, and come back a very short stroke. I like to alternate pick quite often. So not so much with what's happening with the left hand. If I'm looking for accuracy with scales, especially to play quick, fast lines, I'm going to really look at the economy coming from the right hand and not so much the left hand. So I'm developing this ability to just get through the string and come back right away. Very short strokes. So I don't know if you can see that very well, but that's what I'm doing. I'm one of these guys that I like to drag my hand across the pick guard, like I'm dragging my fingers. It's a height gauge for my strings. This is my trick for playing fast. I use this as a height gauge, and then I just lower my pick to the height that I need, and then I just go back and forth across the string. If you can scratch, like a scratch-a-win really fast, you can play guitar really quick, because that's really all you're doing. I'm using this as a height gauge, dropping the pick in, and now I'm working on keeping those strokes really, really small. And they'll become small as you learn to play faster and play your scales faster. Okay, now here's a different point of view. This is what Tomas was saying about muting everything around it. A great example to practice if you want to be able to strum, because I'm a big believer that rhythm is key and the notes come second. I know this sounds really weird, but when I listen to a guitarist like Stevie Ray Vaughan, who, man, he makes me feel something, just what he does rhythmically on the guitar. Your right hand, what you're doing with the rhythm, like he plays a shuffle rhythm, like this kind of thing. He's really good at it. You know, his hands doing circles and all kinds of cool stuff, and everyone's just eating it up. He doesn't even have to play a note. He can just play this down and up stroke groove, scratching his guitar strings, and it sounds great. Then all he does is just applies a couple of notes. So he had a song called Cold Shot. 2 notes, that's it. I'm going to play a 7th fret on the D string to the 5th string, or the 5th fret on the D string. So his song is, oh yeah, and then goes. So I don't know if you remember that song. But it doesn't sound cool if I play it playing the notes that you'd probably see in a tab. What makes it cool is he's strumming all the strings while he's playing just those 2 notes. So this is what Tomas is talking about. Okay, if we now take the right hand out of the picture and just play the rhythm because we want this driving locomotive energy, then you have to mute out strings. So when I play that single note, I am literally stopping all the strings from ringing with, let me see, with my left hand and with my finger underneath. You know, I've worked it out. So when I do strum all the strings, I'm muting everything, but then I just push down on that one note. So all of a sudden I'm shortening the string distance in order to create a nice clean note. Everything else is muted out, and I'm going back and forth to create that note. So now you can play great notes with all these strings in between, not worrying about the right hand, to create energy like Stevie Ray Vaughan. And that's another great way to play single notes. I can play my scale that way. So I'm strumming all my strings. I know.
That's cool.
So there's 2 schools of thoughts. There's being really specific with your right hand and really being in the zone. It's a lot of practice. Or there's the right hand's just going to play energetic groove. I'm just strumming my guitar, so I'll mute it out, and then I'll just push down on the note I want to hear. There you go. I'm doing it with upside down because I'm stopping my strings from ringing, push down on the note I want to hear. Yeah, I started a new guitar trend. We can all play upside down. That's all I have to say. That's all I got, man.
I just created a video recently. It'll be out in a few weeks. Some of the things, if I could go back, and one of the things that I mentioned was if I could go back and start again, I'd pay a lot more attention to rhythm. I've really come to realize how important, how good things sound, even simple things with solid rhythm, with really
it's energy.
The player in command. And I really love playing with people who are good with rhythm. You know, it makes playing together a lot more fun. Okay, then Bob has one more question. He says, could you talk a little about focus? When I'm in the zone, things go fairly well. If I mentally wander off for even a second, then I goof up. So that's John, what would you say about that?
This is a really interesting topic. Okay, when you're learning a song, you've got to be in the zone. You got to work through it. You got to practice it over and over. To be great at a particular song, it's building muscle memory. So when you do have to perform it, I don't think about it. Now, this is totally against what Bob's thinking. He's thinking, I got to be in the zone. I got to be so focused that I'm not going to make a mistake. Well, already you're destroying everything because you're thinking, I can't make a mistake. I'm not going to make a mistake. I'm not going to make a mistake. This part's coming up. I don't want to screw it up. You're totally out already. When I'm playing and I have to play something difficult, I'm rehearsing it to the point where I don't even have to think about it. It's just muscle memory because I've done it so often. And when I actually go to play it, I force myself to not think about it. I can guarantee myself if I even consider what is going to come up next and where I have to go, I'm screwed. I've lost it. I won't be able to do it. As a matter of fact, if I'm sitting with an ensemble, and I know there's a difficult passage that's got to come up, a lot of notes. As soon as I think about it, and I've talked to other musicians about that, as soon as I think about it, I won't remember it. I'll screw up. You have to let your muscle memory and everything that you've worked on, and it's like you just have to believe that it's going to be there for you. The other thing is too with playing is if you can hear it and if you're singing it in your mind. I'm a terrible singer. I sound awful singing, but I can sing a song in my head. Great. I've got like this great octave range and everything. Nobody knows about it because I'm the only one that hears it, but I can hear the notes. And if I'm singing it in my mind as I'm playing it, taking me off the distraction of what's coming next, how does this next part go? To me, that's in the zone. I'm hearing it, I'm feeling it. It's like I'm singing it as I'm playing it. That's the magic. And it also makes you, there is this thing called in the zone. And as musicians, you sometimes get to the point when you're performing and playing where everything disappears and you're just so into the music. I've almost been in tears playing a piece. It's embarrassing, but you just get so absorbed in the music. It's such a wonderful space to be in. Hopefully everyone will be able to experience that at some point. It's like sitting in that big room and playing one note, and it's got this beautiful reverb sound, and the one note that you play is just amazing. So I think I'll play another one and another one. So to me, that's playing in the zone and get to know your music so well that I know it's a lot of practice, right? But when you go to play it, you have to forget about everything and just play. I hope that helps.
Thanks, John. Stefan's asking, do you have a songwriter course? I'm starting to like writing my own music, and I've got something rough, but I don't know how to put it all together. So I've actually got that on my list to create a songwriting course. It's one of my passions, and I kind of just need to know there's enough people interested to be worth me spending the time and energy to create this. But I definitely want to create something. It'll just matter if it's a very small course or more complete course. Rod asks, how long is too long to work on a fingerstyle song to learn? How long is too long to work on a song, John?
Oh man, there have some compositions that, to this day I'm still working on.
I can relate.
Because I want to aspire to be that guy and play that part. And I'm still working on stuff. So, okay, bottom line is this. I think you need to decide what the end goal is. Is this a song that I want to play for somebody in a month or whatever, for a concert or whatever? Then you have to find a version of the fingerstyle piece that you can pick up quick enough to attain your goal. there's more than one way to play a fingerstyle piece, like classical gas or whatever it is that you want to do. You can simplify a version. And if you're unable to find something, then find an instructor. They'll go, okay, I can show you an easier way to play this song. I do that with a lot of my students. They come to me and go, oh, I'd really like to be able to do this, or I'd really like to be able to play that. And I know they're just not to the ability that they can do that. But I can actually create an easier rendition or a way to do it that sounds just like the song, that's within their ability, and they can do it at the goal that they've set. So setting a goal, finding a composition that's attainable in that period, also putting the time in to do the work, because that's the bottom line. It is work. That's the way to do it. And if the song, and find a good teacher or someone that says, yeah, this is a song that at your level you could do this. That should help, and hopefully that answers your question.
Michael asks, what is the best way to learn to sing and play? Now, I'll start by answering this. See if I'm sure John has something to add.
Well, I'm a terrible singer.
I'm not a great singer either. I have paid more attention to it. And I even took lessons at my own music school, singing lessons, because of the YouTube thing. I want to teach people songs, and people were saying, oh, you're a great teacher, but you sing terrible. I said, well, I can do better. Come on. I tell these people if you practice, you get better. I'm gonna show them what you can do. And I took lessons and I got better. I'm never going to be a great singer, but it did help me to kind of get what it takes to play and sing together, as well as be able to make my videos on song lessons. And I will say the biggest tip I would say that I've learned is don't try and learn to play the song and sing it at the same time. Practice, break it down, sing the lyrics with a YouTube video, or just sing it a cappella instead of trying to play and sing at the same time when you're first learning. And then play the song maybe with a YouTube video. First learn the song by just watching the music, learn the chords, even without a strum, add the strum, and then play it with a YouTube video without trying to sing it. Narrow it down to one thing or one pack of things at a time, and then try putting them together. I would try to say, okay, I got the song, I'm going to sing it, and I'm struggling with the singing and getting the chords and the strumming. It's too much. How about you, John? Can you think of anything to add to that?
I was laughing because I always tell people that people pay me not to sing. They just pay me to play guitar. But, I've played in rock bands. I still have bands that I play in where I have to do backing vocals. I would never care to be a frontman lead vocalist. Having to play a syncopated part on the guitar, with upstrokes and downstrokes, it's different than what the vocal line is. It's like patting your head and rubbing your stomach at the same time. It's really tough. Fortunately, I'm a good enough player and I've worked hard enough that I know how to read music. So I find if I'm learning to sing a part, if I have the vocal line written out, that helps me work on my phrasing, and I do it really slow, so I'm just trying to sing the melody, maybe even without the words, just hum it at the right time while I'm strumming the guitar part at a slowed down version of it. And man, that's the only way I can get through it, because I don't sing and play as as a professional as a lead guitar player or lead vocalist that's strumming up front. So I hope that helps.
It is actually two separate skills, being a good singer and a guitar player, and putting them together requires not only being able to do both, but then there are some things that allow you to do them both at the same time.
Yeah.
John, I'm going to let you answer this next one. This is Shulamitz asking, what techniques should an intermediate player learn to become advanced?
Well, for sure, when Tomas was showing you that exercise, I still do that to this day. It's a great exercise, and it improves muscle memory and dexterity. Use all four fingers. I don't even bother with the open string. I just go four fingers and I go up and down the guitar. There was at one point I was even doing it where there's actually 24 different combinations you could do. I could go 1, 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, 2, 4, or 1, 4, 2, 3, or any of these different combinations, because you're just building dexterity and muscle memory. One thing that will make you a better player faster right away is never look at your right hand. You can hear if you're hitting the right string. So whether you're using a pick, fingers, or whatever, you don't have to pay attention to this hand. Just don't. It's either watch the music, focus on the music if you're reading, or it's okay to look back and forth at the left hand if you have to. But if you can force yourself to never look at your hands, period, then you are going to learn so fast, because I watch my students do this. They look at the music, they find the note on the guitar, they get their right hand and they go, okay, here's the right string, and then they place the note, and then they play the note. Well, you saw how long that took. If I just take my hand and go, okay, here's the end of the guitar, here's that same note, here's the string, here's my hand, I'm going to feel where that string is and I play it, it's done. And if you force yourself to do all of that right away, and that's the way you're always going to practice, it's going to take a long time feeling the guitar and feeling, but this is what this helps with, right? Where are my notes? You're going to be able to learn songs 3 times, 4 times, maybe even 10 times faster than you ever will, because you've developed that skill. And I think that's a good one.
Well, Rogelio has an interesting question here. What's a good way, or the best way, to use power chords for songs and use them to make your own chord progression? Well, I hardly ever use power chords on the acoustic guitar, unless I want to show somebody an old Black Sabbath song, or it seems that the power chords were kind of developed for the electric guitar, because the amp and the overtones and harmonics that are produced when you hit the strings kind of fill in a lot of the sound. I can kind of replicate that on the acoustic. It doesn't sound bad, but I've never used it in a song. How about you, John? Have you ever used power chords on your acoustic guitar?
Oh, yeah. Power chords are great.
Tell me about it.
Power chords and octaves, man. I love them. I created a beginner's course that had everything to do with just learning 2 strings really well and playing power chords to play absolutely anything you ever want to play. That's how strongly I feel about what you can achieve with these simple power chords.
Give us an example of something you would play with power chords.
Well, any song at all you can play with power chords. Say I want to play Sweet Home Alabama. And the chords are, just as an easy example, right? The chords are, let me see, does it start with a D? Right? It's just going D. Yeah. But I'm starting out and I'm not very good with those chords, and I want to play along with the recording right away. Well, first of all, I have to know where the bass notes are. D, D, C, and G. So where are those bass notes? Well, there's a way that you can learn to find these notes really, really quick, and I won't get into that right away, but you can do that so you know where every note is all over the guitar in a real hurry. And then all I have to do is just go, okay, D note, C note, G note. Super easy, right? Just 3 notes. And then I'll just play the rhythm. Well, I know the rhythm is, and then I want to turn it into a chord. Well, I'll just use a power chord because it's easy, right? I just move this. That's the entire song. I didn't have to learn to switch all these difficult to play chords if you're starting out. I just take this power chord and move it around. La Bamba or something like that. It's just in reverse. Right? There's every song you can think of. Here's something you can do. If you know how to play notes across these 2 strings, or not played, but know how to find them right away, turn them into a power chord. It doesn't matter if the chord, like I could grab a book right now, like a Beatles book or something like that. I could look at the music, or you can go on Ultimate Guitar or someplace like that just has like chords and lyrics. It's all over the place, right? I can just take the bass notes of all those chords. Doesn't matter if it's major, minor, augmented, well, maybe augmented, but it doesn't, major 7 or all these crazy chords. I can just take the bass note, turn it into a power chord, and play the song right now.
Huh.
How cool is that?
That is cool. I know too. You're using that technique you talked about earlier of muting out the other strings, because you're hitting basically 2 notes for the power chord and muting the other strings.
Right.
Well, I'm glad I asked. Actually, I'm glad Rogelio asked, but
Yeah.
we'll
And
give
the
him
other
the
thing
credit.
is, once you learn how to find the bass notes and the power chord, you've already got the 2, you got a root and a fifth. Then you just learn to find the rest of the intervals. The only interval missing is a third, right? If you know where the third is on your guitar because of a little bit of theory, then now you can turn those power chords into major chords, minor chords. I already know that this power chord, A power chord, and from what I showed you earlier about 7 chords, A note here, but this A note here, A major 7. Now I'm playing a jazz chord. A7, I'm moving that note back one more. Hey, I know a little bit more theory. I can move it into a 6.
Well, that sounds like a good lick.
Right. So now just a little bit of theory and a 5 chord, a power chord. Man, you can play hundreds of chords and all these songs, even jazz chords, or jazzy tunes, because you know what the root is. You can find it real fast, turn it into a 5 chord, add another interval, and away you go.
I use the power chords in my course, Bar Chords for Everyone, as kind of the basis of learning to play bar chords, because, putting the bar down and the whole form all at one time is hard for beginners. By starting with a bar chord and then adding the next finger and the next finger and practicing and playing progressions, it's a lot easier to both have fun with it and keep getting to the progressively until you get to the point where you can bar the whole thing across the neck and play the whole form.
Yeah.
Here's a good one. I'll give my short answer. I have some difficult chords that I can't identify around the 7th and 10th frets. This is Patricia. She says, how do I identify the chord? And how do I find another chord that's maybe not so difficult that I can use faster? Now, I'll tell you what I do. I pull out my book, 7,700 something chords, and I look up the chord, and I look at the different forms until I find one that I like just right. So, with that, maybe you have a more sophisticated method, John.
Oh, man. Well, for me, again, it comes down to if you know these 2 strings really well, your E string and your A string, and you know how to play chords based on those strings, major, minor, dominant 7th, maybe just take those. And then, so if I want to play a major chord, of course, I'm going to move that up to a F major or F sharp major, and I just move it up. So, okay, I want to play a D major chord. I can find the D right away. I know from the root string, that E root, I know a major chord looks like this. If I'm E major, D major, E minor, D minor, E7, D7, right? But the reason why I can find them so fast is because I have done the work in order to know my notes across these 2 strings super fast. So I just go, D. And then, okay, I could play a bar, but I don't have to play a bar. Get rid of the bar and just play those 3 notes. Or minor would look something like this. Or 7 might look something like this. Looks a little different because I'm not actually barring. I'm just playing single notes. There's a D7 chord without having to play a bar. A chord does not have to be all 6 strings. It can just be part of it, right? As a matter of fact, as a jazz guitar player, I sometimes only play the root and the third or the 7 and the third. I don't play the entire chord because I'm just getting in the way of the piano player and the bass player and everybody else. So it's sounding like a sonic soup. It sounds like a mess. I like to just play the nice notes. And I hate playing bar chords. I can't stand them. It's too much work. It hurts. So why play a D major chord when I can just do this? Or maybe the top part of it, or just 2 notes, maybe these 2 notes.
Yeah, especially on acoustic or classical. Electric guitar seems like it was made for bar chords, but acoustic and classical, especially when you get up in here.
Yeah.
Freddie says, I'm a beginner. Oh, first, a quick one. Larry, are the strings on the Parlor size guitar different than the strings on the full size? No, as far as I understand, they're exactly the same. Is that your understanding, John?
Yeah, I believe so. I think the only thing different might be the tension because of a shorter scale. So, but yeah.
I guess you could tune any guitar different, but I think you're using the same, depending on whatever you want, heavy tension or medium or any. Anyway, I've never heard anything different.
Sorry to interrupt. I have a good thing with regards to people that are having a hard time with sore fingers playing the guitar. I just thought of this. Thomas, Ben Woods. I just talked to him a little while ago. We were talking about flamenco and guitar and stuff. He sells guitars, and he was telling me his guitar that he created with what they call, I think they call it zero tolerance or something like that. But basically what it is, do I have a capo here? I did. I used to always think that flamenco players and everybody that used a capo did it so they could play open position chords in a different key, right? Because we love the sound of the open strings. But what I realized when talking to Ben Woods is, and I didn't even realize it, but it's so true, we put the capo, a lot of flamenco guitar players put the capo right here at the very first fret. And why do they do it? Because it lowers the action super low to the point where the strings are so close to the fretboard that you hardly have to push down at all. They're almost there. And all of a sudden my guitar from where it was before is super, super easy to play. I hardly have to put down any pressure at all. So if you want to have an easier time pushing down on notes, just put a capo on the guitar and practice playing all your stuff with a capo, and then later on get rid of the capo.
Oh, interesting. That's news to me. That's cool.
I never would have thought of it until Ben and I were talking about it, and he goes, oh man, I've made my guitar. He made his guitar so there's actually a fret right at the bottom. So instead of coming over the nut, it has to go over the fret.
I understand.
Yeah. And it keeps the action low, so the flamenco guys, they just eat it up. It's like, I want one of those, and I do want one as soon as I can get one.
Low action is the goal.
Right, but we can't get low action with a traditional guitar, but we can if we put a capo on. Try it out. It makes a difference.
Freddie says, I'm a beginner. I know some basic chords and some strums. What scales as a beginner should I learn? My goal is to improvise with a looper. Now, it depends on the styles of music that you want to improvise in. I usually tell students if they want to play rock, blues kind of stuff, start with a basic pentatonic minor. I usually start with an A minor pentatonic scale because you can very quickly improvising. Is that what you do with students, John?
Yeah, pentatonic's the way to start if you want to improvise right away. It's easier because it's just 5 notes instead of all 7 notes.
Yeah, that's just
and I really insist that they right. And then I also insist that they learn that same A minor pentatonic scale that you're playing can also be a major pentatonic scale.
Oh, you do the major pentatonic. Yeah.
Because it's the same shape. It's just from the pinky on the A note, it's A major pentatonic. I put my index finger on the A note, and now it's A minor pentatonic. So now you can play major scales, minor scales in major keys, in minor keys with one shape and start that way.
Yeah. Let's see. We've got... and Larry says, I think this is for you, John.
Oh,
now you've done it. I have to look at the tone now.
I'm sorry. What did I do? Okay, go ahead, Tom. Sorry.
I'm looking for the next question. I'm going through question. Here we are. Any tips on how to hit mute some of the strings while playing the other ones at the same time when fingerstyle? So he's asking how you basically mute some strings as other when you're playing fingerstyle guitar. Yeah, that's a whole thing.
Yeah, it's more accuracy. I guess it's becoming accurate with the right hand fingerstyle. And,
Yeah,
you know,
because your right hand can control a lot of that.
It's right hand control, right? So, yeah, it's just having that control, right hand more so than left hand. I still kind of mute out chord notes. A lot of the fingerstyle, you're playing around chord shapes. Yeah. You know, when you strum a chord, you know, you learn to mute out strings as you're strumming. And it's the same thing, I guess, with fingerstyle. You're kind of learning to mute out strings as you're playing fingerstyle.
Yeah, you're right. My right hand, I'm watching now or feeling, my right hand is controlling which strings I hit as well as which ones I let ring. I go back to a string if I don't want to ring. But in the left hand, yeah, same thing. Whenever I don't need a note, and if I can, I'll mute it. Like this G chord, I'm muting that fifth string right now. I don't even think about it, but I'm muting it so it's not going to ring out by accident when I hit the sixth string.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it has to do with slowing down your practice so that you can pay attention to where the strings are ringing and which can control that ringing. It's likely the right hand and sometimes the left hand and sometimes a combination of the two.
Yeah. Sometimes, you know, when songs are moving, you know, back to that whole thing for me personally, rhythm is key. The notes aren't as important. That's a terrible thing to say because the notes are important. And sometimes you want just a perfect, beautiful note to sing out. But when I'm playing something that has energy and that it's driving, I don't worry so much about the bad notes and notes not coming out right. And a lot of students do this. They're trying to play the song perfectly sometimes, you know, when they're playing it for a performance, and they don't want to make mistakes. Well, you have to get to that place where it's okay to make mistakes, and the more mistakes you make and the more comfortable you are with those mistakes, the faster you're going to progress. You're still focusing in on playing it very well, but not getting hung up on making the mistake can really slow down your progress, or getting hung up on making sure that every note is perfect can really slow down your progress to a certain degree. It's a balance.
Yeah. I find sometimes I need to stop and slow down and pay close attention to each note. And then a good amount of the time, at least, you know, 2/3 of the time, not worry about every little individual note. And see the bigger picture and let it go and get the flow and the rhythm and, you know, and get the feel of the song. Even if it's just a part of the song. It's a back and forth thing, huh? Narrow down, focus in, breathe out, hear the whole song.
Yeah.
Try it faster and fumble and then go slower and try and get it right.
Yeah, and there'll be sections where, you know, you're not up to that point yet. So it's okay to fumble through that section and get on to the next section if you're playing it for the joy of playing it. And then you come back to it when you're doing your regular practice and you're working out that section. So eventually at some point, like me, you know, trying to play, you know, all these pieces, you know, how long does it take to play a piece? Well, I can learn to play it really fast, but certain sections I'm going to have to woodshed for months, maybe a year till I can finally pull it off. But I'll just flub my way through that little section because I love the piece so much. I want to play it for people. You know, I figure out a way to make it work because sometimes just our abilities aren't quite there yet. I think we're getting off the topic a little bit, but
here's a good one, John. We both can relate to this. I noticed that you both have heavy fingernails on your right hand. Mine are too thin and wear down easily. What do you suggest to get harder nails? Well, I'm not sure what John does, but I go to the fingernail lady down the block and have them put not acrylic nails. What do they call it? It's like gel. Yeah. No, it's powder, and she forms them, so they look good, huh? I mean, they look like real nails, but yeah, my nails wouldn't last doing this strumming stuff. And I'll pull out the fingerstyle guitar and start finger picking, and any nail that was hanging in there will break right away on steel strings. I still got my original thumbnail though. That one I can keep. What do you do, John? Some guitars glue actual, either nails or even ping pong balls, I've heard.
Oh man, I'm fortunate that I do have fairly strong nails, but I don't like the shape of them because nails can be different shapes for people, so that can hang me up a little bit. About fingernails, I play with a guitar player named Rossi Zonkoff. So if you ever want to check out some of my YouTube videos, check out Rossi. He was originally a bass player, a monster bass player, plays incredibly well. And because he's a bass player, he found that he could not play fingerstyle and flamenco with nails at all. He has to have his literally shaved off. And listen to him play when he plays single note lines. Man, he is a monster. He can play. Wow. And the tone and everything is fantastic. So I guess my first thing is don't feel that you have to have nails to be a great fingerstyle player. We all like the attack and everything, and all the players have it. But if you have nails, if you're struggling because your nails just aren't cutting it, then don't do the crazy things that we do if you don't want to. I don't know how good gel nails are for you. I've done that. I have a performance coming up. I have to have a nail, especially on my index finger or my thumb, because I'm playing flamenco stuff. So I've gotten gel nails and all that stuff. And the thing I hated about gel nails was if they start to tear, it'll tear your entire nail right off your finger, and it's awful. If I break a nail or I crack a nail, a lot of times I'll use a single layer of toilet paper. You know how they're 2-ply, just the 1 ply. I'll put that on my finger, a drop of crazy glue. I heard back in the day, crazy glue was invented to seal up scars and stuff. So I don't know if it's a good thing or not, or good for my skin. They couldn't stitch anyone up, so they had crazy glue. Close the wound, glue, done. But yeah, tissue paper, a drop of crazy glue, blow on it a bit, refile it. That was my quick fix. But again, my nails are fairly strong that I'm okay. So for soft nails, I don't know. There is products that you can purchase. There are also supplements and stuff that you can take. You're going to have to talk to people that know this stuff that do help with getting your nail hard. I have had
classical guitar players tell me they use this stuff that they paint on their nail and it hardens their nail, but it's not as hard as I would need for the flamenco strumming stuff. It's because they're doing classical, it's a little different style of playing.
Yeah, but it does protect the nail. I guess the big thing is don't let your nails dry out. Keep your hands warm. I mean, this is for all guitar players. Keep your hands warm. Keep them dry. But use hand cream or moisturizer too, so it's not dry because of the elements. I'm dry just because you don't want to keep them in water all the time. That helps too.
Forever Thoughtful says, I like the idea of not having to learn or play bar chords.
Nobody says you have to play them, right?
One last question. If anybody else has any questions, I'm going to do the drawing, and I'll try to catch up on anybody who got in late. So this last question before the drawing is it proper practice laying down in bed or sitting in a chair? Felicia is asking this. What do you say, John?
I practice on a bus. I practice on airplanes. I practice in hockey rinks. I practice laying down. I practice any chance I get. I've even had miniature guitars, little things I've cut out with strings so I could practice my right hand stuff. I used to practice. My wife was kicking me under the table once. We went to a wedding. We're at the reception. They're all doing their speeches, and here I am under the guitar, under the table, with a little piece of wood that I had strings strung across so I could practice working on my right hand technique. That's how nuts I am. Doesn't matter where you practice. Especially, if you're working out chords, like just back and forth, not pushing down. I want to get these chords down. I constantly practice in front of a TV. I don't want to drive my wife crazy because she hates it when I'm actually playing. And I'm just working out stuff, really quiet, eating popcorn as I'm working on my chords, or a particular line for a song or whatever it is. Nobody hears it. I'm working on building my muscle memory, and I'm just sitting on the couch lounging around. Nice thing about having a guitar in your hand, I might be working on right hand finger patterns is that I won't reach for the popcorn because I can't do that and work on my guitar technique at the same time, which is, it helps with your...
Yeah, that wouldn't work with my wife. I started playing my guitar while we're watching a show. I mean, she'd go in the other room with her Facebook and that'd be all over.
I'm lucky that way. She puts up with it, but I really quiet. She doesn't hear anything. It's just, I'm super quiet.
Okay, if you guys have any more questions, feel free to add them. I'm going to go ahead and do the drawing. This, again, for those who came in late,
right,
is a drawing I do once a month at the RGS Live. These are for students of my Real Guitar Success membership. They complete, or rather spend at least 10 minutes on each session. There's 20 sessions. By the time the month comes around, a number of them have completed it, and I put them in a drawing for a $50 Amazon gift card. Now, I basically print them out and cut them in little pieces of paper, and let's see who the winner is this month. Bam! Larry Griffith. Larry, good work. And, oh gosh, oh, we need it. And all of you actually are the winners, because if you've completed all 20 sessions, even just spent 10 minutes, you're that much better guitar player, and that's the real prize. But I'm happy to make it a little more fun and send an Amazon gift card to you, Larry. Nice. With that, let me check, see if there are any other questions. Look like we got them all, John. We did it.
I see something, butter on your neck. What's that all about?
I have no idea.
Oh.
Might be referring to something we missed earlier. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I hope so.
It's been a long time since I've added, butter to my fretboard.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you, John. It was fun. I really enjoyed having you here.
Be part of it.
And hang on, John, for just a minute when I close up so we can still talk after I stop the live broadcast. All of you will be back. I'll be back for sure. And the first Thursday of every month, that's December already. This is the end of 2021. One more month. I'll be here the first Thursday, December, 12 noon. At least my time. I'm in California, Pacific Standard Time. And if you have any questions, or you're watching this pre-recorded, or if you're watching this recorded, not pre-recorded, you can ask your questions in the comments, and I'll certainly do my best. Thanks again. We'll look forward to seeing you next month, if not before, in the Real Guitar Success. Oh, John, before we go, John, tell us what you do. John's not only a great guitar player, but a guitar teacher, and he has his own guitar online lessons.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, if anybody wants to take lessons, I've got courses and stuff like that. You just go to yourguitarschool.com and you'll find it there, or just go to my website, johngilliot.com. You'll find me there. Yeah.
Great. I'll put that in the show notes, johngilliot.com.
Perfect. Thanks.
Okay, now we're ready. I'm going to close up for today. See you all soon. Bye.
Cool.